Hello and welcome to Healthy and Happy with Hera to discover the bright side of life. Today I have a very special guest. She is a registered nurse, she is from Canada, she has many years experience, she is positive and passionate person, and that's why I want to interview her today. Emily Bondy, thank you so much for being here with me.
Thanks for having me, Hera. I'm so excited.
So we will talk about many things. But first, I want to remind to everybody that 2020 is the International Year of the Nurse and Midwife. So if you have watched the previous episodes, you have already figured that out. And that's why I think that it's so important to give nurses voice and to share the stories, to understand them a bit better. We have been supporting them during this difficult time and all healthcare professionals. And I think that it's a great time to remember what they are doing and to learn more about them and understand them a bit better. So we're celebrating nurses and midwives this year because WHO, so the World Health Organization, wanted to celebrate the 200th birth anniversary of Florence Nightingale. Moreover, the 4,000 bed facility in London was the first NHS Nightingale hospital that was built in order to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. So why is this person so important and why every nurse knows her? Maybe you should learn about her more. Let's see the following video and then we'll be back together.
Florence Nightingale was a pioneer of public health and the founder of modern nursing.
Because of Florence Nightingale, nursing is one of the most regulated and respected professions in the world.
Named after her city of birth, Florence, Italy, Florence Nightingale was born on May 12, 1820, into an upper-class British family.
Though at the time nursing was not a respected profession, Nightingale felt very called to become a nurse.
At age 24, Nightingale defied her parents' expectations to marry a suitable match and left England to study at the Kaiserswerth Hospital in Dusseldorf, Germany.
When she returned from Germany, she took a job as a nurse at a hospital in London, and she was eventually promoted after only a year to be head of nursing there.
She improved sanitary conditions so much that she garnered a reputation as a reformer and as an advocate for public health.
During the Crimean War, the British press made public the horrendous conditions of the wounded soldiers in Turkey. The army turned to Florence Nightingale for help.
Sidney Herbert, Secretary at War, reached out directly to Nightingale. When Nightingale and her band of nurses arrived at Scutari, the hospital in the Crimea, they were shocked at what they found.
The field hospitals were positioned on cesspools of putrid water. Patients were lying in their filth. More soldiers were dying from infections than they were from wounds sustained on the battlefield.
Many of the reforms that Florence Nightingale instituted were quite revolutionary.
By the time she was done, Florence Nightingale had succeeded in reducing the death rate within these military hospitals by 2/3.
Known as the Angel of the Crimea, Nightingale returned to England and received a hero's welcome, a medal from Queen Victoria, and a gift of $250,000. She devoted the rest of her life to effecting change in medical care.
In 1860, Florence Nightingale founded at St. Thomas Hospital in London the Nightingale Training School for Nurses.
She was a pioneer in the use of cutting-edge statistical methods of the time to design hospitals and medical systems to maximize the health of the community at large.
This really helped her to make her message known to the parliamentarians and government agencies who would make important decisions about hospitals and healthcare.
In her later years, Nightingale was officially honored by Germany, France, Norway, and numerous prestigious British societies. She died at her London home on August 13, 1910.
The fact that we have a nursing profession today is in large part thanks to the work of Florence Nightingale.
I think that it's very important to know how everything started, and everything started with this amazing woman that went above and beyond and discovered why people were dying so much in hospitals. So Emily, I want us to learn a bit more about you. So you are working in oncology ward at the moment, but I want us to know a bit more about you, about your life story, maybe some things that are precious for you that you've done during your life. Can you tell us some? information.
Born and raised in the most southern part of Canada. I grew up with a great mom and dad. My mom was a surgical technologist working in Michigan, and so I always kind of had a little bit of a healthcare background that way. And I did actually lose my dad to suicide when I was 18. So that was a huge challenge I faced because I was actually in the middle of my first year as a nursing student. So I learned a lot from that and continued on. I've actually nursed in different areas in Canada. So about 2 hours north of us, we've got a big central hub in our province, and I nursed there for a couple years. I just moved back from living in the West, so I was out in the province of Alberta nursing. And now I'm back home. I just got married, I bought a house, and I'm kind of settling into a more long-term plan.
Amazing. So, do you think that some of your experiences, apart from the background that you had, because of obviously, like your mom had to do with healthcare, do you think that other parts of your life affected your choice to choose that, or like taking care of people, etc.?
Yeah, it was funny. In Canada, in our grade 10 year in high school, we have to take a course called Careers and Civics. And in my careers course, they had us take a little online test, and my number one option was nurse. And I had never really thought about it. We don't have any nurses in the family, but it just made sense. I always loved biology and the way the human body worked. And I love people. I'm a very social person, so got a big central hub in our province, and I nursed there for a couple years. I just moved back from living in the West, so I was out in the province of Alberta nursing. And now I'm back home. I just got married, I bought a house, and I'm kind of settling into a more long-term plan.
Amazing. So, do you think that some of your experiences, apart from the background that you had, because of obviously, like your mom had to do with healthcare, do you think that other parts of your life affected your choice to choose that, or like taking care of people, etc.?
Yeah, it was funny. In Canada, in our grade 10 year in high school, we have to take a course called Careers and Civics. And in my careers course, they had us take a little online test, and my number one option was nurse. And I had never really thought about it. We don't have any nurses in the family, but it just made sense. I always loved biology and the way the human body worked. And I love people. I'm a very social person, so helping others and being in that environment.
So what do you want to represent as a nurse? What is nursing for you? What do you try to achieve as a nurse?
For me, nursing it's very holistic. It's not just a career, it's something you kind of live day to day. And for me, I try to represent being healthy as an individual, with staying in shape, eating well, but then also taking care of my mental health. And I think spirituality is a big component to nursing as well. And so I actively try to reflect on what my beliefs are and what I'm gearing towards, and really my purpose in this world, which I just think is to help others and to make the world a better place.
And I think that you've chosen the right profession to do that. Because I think that, the nurse can influence a lot someone's life. It's not just giving the medication, it's more than that. So you've been working as a nurse for 6 years now, and you've been mostly working in oncology, in palliative care, and things around that. Is there a specific that you have a reason that you've chosen this specific area?
It's quite funny. When I started nursing, I thought, oh, I'll be a labor and delivery nurse. I want to bring life into this world and hold little babies, and that's where I thought I would be. And come to realize that I want the polar opposite. I thoroughly get a lot of fulfillment from end-of-life care. And yeah, I've worked in different areas, and it always seems to be the area that I keep getting drawn to. And for me, it's an absolute privilege to help a patient and a family member in those final stages of life and to help them cope and find a sense of peace in it. It's really, for me, it's quite beautiful.
Although I suppose that you work in a very difficult, challenging environment because you see so many difficult situations. And as you said, like some people like are at the end of their life, so it's very difficult to handle. How does it make you feel being in that environment, working in that environment?
For me, I actually feel very empowered because oftentimes when it comes to end of life, people steer away from it. People are scared. So for me, I'm very comfortable talking about death. I'm comfortable about accepting death. So I feel empowered to be able to help families and patients through that. And you know, when a patient is scared or in pain, allowing them to put that burden onto me and say, don't worry, I'm going to take care of you and you're going to be okay. Death is okay. So very empowering, which is
It is
very odd.
What do you think that is the most challenging aspect of that for you, actually?
For me, it's when patients are very dissatisfied with their care or not accepting of their prognosis. When someone doesn't want to die, that for me is very challenging because death for all of us is inevitable and it's something very hard to accept and it's scary. So it's always challenging to change their focus or give them a new perspective to try to accept what is happening.
Mm-hmm. And how do you think that you build your own resilience in order to deal with those situations?
For me, it's just, it sounds so silly, but coming in with a sense of confidence is how I'm being resilient. For example, when I introduce myself to a patient, we start a fresh slate, you know, the beginning of my 12 hours. I say, hi, I'm Emily, and you and I were going to have a good day today. I'm going to do time to make your day the best that it can be. And evoking that confidence in them also helps me because if I tell myself, Emily, you're going to be good, Emily, you're going to do a really great job today, I'm more likely to do that. And then the patients are better at receiving me as a nurse too.
Wow, I don't think that it's a silly approach at all. And actually, I think that would be like the right mindset maybe for many different challenges that we have in our everyday life. So yeah. So at this point, I want us to watch another video. And this video has to do with the fact why nurses love their job and how they can have an influence in someone's life.
I became a nurse because
I'm a mother hen, so I like to take care of people, so it was in my nature to become a nurse.
It's just so touching to be a part of that process, to help them make decisions and to get through that process. And it just gives me just a feeling that I can't even really explain.
I like to see people smile and I like to brighten their days.
Just a comforting touch, someone to talk to, someone to listen to. I enjoy all those aspects of nursing.
I was always interested in the sciences, and I also like to help people, so I thought that this was a great career to do that.
When I'm looking back on life, I want to make sure that I've done something that gives back to society and that I can be proud of.
We can help others, take care of them, listen to them whenever they needed help with anything.
It's rewarding, and you get
You get to know your patients and establish relationships with them, and I love that.
I like making everyone's day a little bit better by whatever way I can.
The hospice nurses were unbelievable, helping my family cope and process, and I aspired to be like them one day.
What better way to touch someone else's life?
Because I wanted to do something that was interesting, challenging, and would make a difference in people's lives every day.
I think that you've seen some common parts from the video that apply to you as well. So now I want you to tell us a bit, what is your most memorable moment as a nurse? Maybe like describe us a bit, or whatever, you know, like has stayed in your mind that, oh my God, like this has impacted me. Like this situation was like, wow. It can be difficult or not, whatever you think that, you know, that has stayed in your mind and will stay like forever.
There's a lot of examples that come to mind. You know, patients sometimes can be very funny. Some memorable things are sometimes there's some violence in the job, and that negative emotion evokes. But a positive, happy memory I actually have is when I was working on rehab in Alberta. Our patients are there for long periods of time, and I got to know this one patient who was trying to build her strength after an infection, and she had a new onset of dementia. Mm-hmm. This woman was resilient. She was stubborn. She was funny. You could just tell she had always been a very strong leadership type woman. And it was actually New Year's Eve, and unfortunately her infection had come back. She was starting to decline. We had put her on a BiPAP machine, and I had her sons with me, and we were talking about her mom's wishes, because now she was out of her mind. She wasn't able to make her own decisions, and this life-sustaining measures that we were doing, is that really what their mom would want? And amongst that discussion, the sons decided to withdraw care, and that was a challenging conversation to be had, but it was the right one for what happens next. And after we removed the BiPAP and we stopped her medications and stopped her IV fluids, she had this moment of absolute clarity. It was 9 o'clock, and all of a sudden she just perked right up, and she knew who everyone in the room was. She knew her boys. She was talking about old stories and laughing. And the sons were amazed because they had their mom back. And this moment is actually got a name. It's called the surge, which she had this great last moment with her boys, and she passed away right before midnight.
Wow. That's like, wow.
Yeah, it sticks with me too, because the sons came back later and they had forgotten some of her personal belongings, and I was actually working, and asked them, you know, how are you guys doing? You know, I'm so sorry about your mom. And they were having a hard time. They said, you know, New Year's Eve, it's always gonna be hard now. It's always gonna be not an enjoyable day. And I was able to share my personal experience because I lost my dad on Christmas Day. And I said to them, you know, it's actually one of the greatest blessings I've gotten, is that day you're always surrounded by family, and that day you always get to toast your mom and remember her in a very happy way, because the way she died was beautiful. And so that one always sticks with me.
Wow. And like, oh my God, like these are so powerful moments that I don't think that you can comment in so much, because you know the story speaks for themselves. But like I feel kind of amazed at the way that you deal with those situations, like, and trying always to see like the positive aspects of every situation. That's amazing. Let's think about a shift, like any shift that you may have. So do you do like 8-hour shifts or 12-hour shifts?
We do 12 hours.
Okay, so then you work less days during the week.
Right.
Yeah. So during such a long shift, I know that it's exhausting, but what are the main things, the main thoughts that a nurse has in her mind during this so busy schedule that she may have, or he? What are those thoughts that are in your mind? So it can be anything. It can be tasks. It can be, like that you need to check on your patients. Like, what are the main thoughts during a shift like that?
For me, it's always a prioritization. And as a nurse, throughout your 12-hour day, you're constantly reevaluating where your priorities need to be. So for me, it's always when I come in and I have my 4 or 5 patients straight in the morning, I always want to make sure I have eyes on all of them, and then the prioritizing starts. Who's the most sick? Who's in pain? Who needs something right now? And you always need to expect the unexpected, because phone calls occur, teams come in, doctors are talking to you. So it's that constant, how do I make sure everything gets done, but again, in that task that's most important to the lower.
Obviously, as you said before, like this is a very quick environment, very, like anything happens anytime. So you may be taking care of one patient, then another one comes in and asks you something, maybe the phone rings at the same time, and maybe another healthcare professional wants also some answers. So when you have so many people all together coming at you and asking you so many questions, how do you deal with that? How do you cope with that?
Yeah, again, it's just that prioritizing, and your communication is always key, because it can be very frustrating for a patient when you're not a priority. And for me, it's simply, if you communicate to them, you know what, I'm so sorry, right now I can't do point A or point B, but you know what, give me an hour, I will return, and we will get it done. Just that communication of saying, right now I can't, but I will. It gives them a peace of mind. It gives them a little bit of, just that they have some control over what's happening. Mm-hmm. And I find that's the easiest way to keep the fires down.
Very good point. Always talking helps. That's right. So as we said before, like sometimes you don't have only to deal with the patient himself, but also with the whole family. So many times, and especially during difficult moments, like you need also to support the family and maybe to train them regarding the new situation of the patient, maybe just to support them. It can be a sad moment, like it can, can be something that someone may have for the rest of his life or her life. So they need also to be able to cope. Again, what is your mindset behind that when you're talking to those people?
For me, it's always knowledge is power. And a lot of the times in healthcare, when it comes to families or patients, the scariest parts are when they just don't know. And so it's either providing them with the knowledge I have to help give them a little bit of peace of mind or understanding, or if it is an unknown, just helping them through the process of accepting the unknown. So, acknowledging feelings that they're having and saying that, validating those feelings. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be frustrated. And I find that really supports families and patients the best possible way.
Mm-hmm. And also, like, sometimes I suppose that, like, even if you don't know the answers, like, you can come back. So in many professions, the ideal thing is that as soon as you leave work, you go home and then you forget everything about work and then go home and spend time with family, switch off and have a nice time. What happens with you? Like, is it so easy to switch off when you go home, especially after a 12-hour shift?
Yeah, I really think some days are easier than others, which is any job that you're ever at. there are times when I come home and I don't think about work and it was a good day, but it's those challenging days that you have. It is hard to switch off. I've woken up in the middle of the night and called the unit and said, "Oh my God, did I do this?" or "I forgot to do this." And that's kind of a part of it too. But for me, the best part or the best way to cope with difficult days is to debrief, whether it be with my colleagues or, I make a phone call on my drive home, talk to my husband. Sometimes you just need to be able to talk it out, and it gives you that little bit of relief from the stress of the day.
Mm-hmm. So definitely having a supportive environment.
Yeah, and that's talking to other nurses really is huge for me. I've got a lot of nursing friends. I've got really great colleagues. So we lean on each other. We support one another, which is really great because we're all in the same boat.
So talking to your colleagues, does it ever pass through your mind that maybe they also had a difficult day as you had, and maybe I don't want to annoy them, and put something extra in their mind, and then they are also worried about me or whatever? Does it pass through your mind or not so much?
Not so much, because I usually have a very optimistic, positive spin on things, so I don't find that it's burdening. It's simply just talking things through and trying to find something of light, something of positivity out of what has happened.
Regarding COVID-19 now, because I know that it has been a very challenging situation for all healthcare professionals in the world, and they had to adjust very, very quickly to build new policies, procedures very quickly, maybe do whole changes in the hospitals in order to be able to admit people with COVID, etc. How challenging has this been for you?
It's definitely been a huge roller coaster. I actually started a new job on oncology right as the pandemic was starting. So
that's a great moment.
I don't know. So I had a challenging time to figure out, am I stressed because it's a new job and I'm learning a new area? Or am I stressed because of the ever-changing policies and procedures that came along with COVID? So yeah, there was a lot of mixed emotions and anxiety when this first came about.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that now it's better, like you know what you're doing, like everything is in place, etc.?
Honestly, now I think it might even be a little bit worse, because at least as things were rolling out, you just had to roll with the changes. But now we're trying to find a plateau. And I find that now there's a lot of mixed information. So it's been a little bit challenging. Whereas when everything was fast, you were just keeping up with that. But now we've got different areas telling us different things. So that part of it's a little tricky to navigate.
Mm-hmm. And what about the constant changes? Because I suppose that, like the one day you're told something, and then after a few days, the whole policy changes, and then you're told something else, and then you need to keep up to speed the whole time, read a lot of documents, make sure that your knowledge is updated, etc. What about all those changes? Like, did they make it like even more challenging, or how did you ensure that, yes, I'm dealing with that, I know what I'm doing? How do you cope with those changes?
I think the best way is just to keep an open mind that this is a fluid, ever-changing environment. So to be stuck on one policy and think that that's the right thing isn't the right mentality. The right mentality is to be fluid and to think this can change. This is what we're doing today, but this can change. And always keeping it in the back of my mind just to make sure I feel safe. So even with the policies that are changing, what do I feel most safe doing? So if they told me, oh, I don't need to wear this certain PPE for this patient, does that feel right to me? Or do I want to wear more PPE? Do I not feel safe? So even, yeah, just those little ways of advocating for myself in just a small way.
Mm-hmm. So regarding the PPE, which is like the personal protective equipment, how was it for you? Like, were there any moments that you felt maybe a bit scared that, okay, am I doing everything right? Am I protected like 100%? Because like in such a huge shift, anything can happen. And like sometimes we do gestures, we may touch so many times the face that we don't even realize. How did that make you feel?
When we first started with masks, I did have quite a few moments where I thought I was just popping into the room for a few minutes, which turned into 20. And have been times where I've actually had to remove myself from the room and just tell the patient, you know, I need a break from the equipment. And that they've actually been pretty okay with that. In that same regard, it's very frustrating because I've had a couple of scares as well, where I've wanted to immediately help my patient. I had a patient who I watched fall, and there was nothing I could do because I had to apply my proper PPE to go into the room and tend to the patient. So that's very challenging as a nurse because your instinct is to help and to be there right away. And unfortunately, in the current climate, you need to be able to take a step back and remember that your safety is important.
Mm-hmm. So how much does this changes the situation in the patient care maybe regarding the fact of the challenges? So you already mentioned one, like not being able to react as quickly as you would like to. What other impacts it had? Because obviously you're wearing the protective equipment like for many hours, and also patients cannot see your face. So especially like, you know, if it's the first day that you're going there to treat them, it's a bit like, I can imagine myself, it would be a bit weird, someone taking care of you, but actually not knowing exactly who is that person or how does the person looks like. How much of a challenge has it been for you, this? Or maybe patients have told you also.
Yeah, it's been really significant, especially the area that I'm in, oncology. These people are getting, you know, oftentimes really devastating news. And for me, I'm a smiler. I elute so much of my personality through smiling and helping patients through that way. So for me, not being able to see my smile is very challenging. So I'm relying more on communicating. But yeah, I've had as well the challenge of no family, where you're the patient's family. I had a patient celebrate her 60th birthday, and we were it. The nurses, we were the people that she was celebrating with. I had a patient pass away, and as I'm trying to talk to his wife about withdrawing care, it's not as personal when you're behind a mask, or when that loved one has to say goodbye to their husband and they're wearing a mask. It just dehumanizes it a little bit.
Regarding that, another nurse that she became very famous because she posted a picture of her after wearing so many hours the protective equipment, personal protective equipment. She takes the masks and everything out, and she has so many like bruises in her face, maybe scars, redness a lot, like wherever, you know, the mask was and whatever else she was wearing. That was a very, very powerful photo that was published, and it was republished in a lot of media and channels, etc. And also what she wrote was very powerful, and I want to read it a bit and then tell me your opinion about it, like how you experience that as well. So I'm gonna find it, just give me one moment. So she was saying, so her name is Alessia Bonari and she's from Italy. So she's one of the nurses that was taking care of the COVID patients, you know, and Italy was the first country that had a lot of cases. So she was saying, I'm a nurse and I'm facing this health emergency right now. I'm scared too. I'm scared because the mask might not fit my face well, or I may have accidentally touched my face or myself with dirty gloves, or maybe the lenses don't cover my eyes and something might have passed. I'm physically tired because protective devices hurt, scrubs are sweating, and once dressed, I cannot go to the bathroom or drinks for 6 hours. I'm psychologically tired, and as I am, all my colleagues who have been in the same conditions for weeks. But this won't stop us from doing our job like we have always done. I will continue to care and to take care of my patients because I am proud and in love with my job. So this was very, very powerful for me. How does that has affected you, or have you experienced it in this level as she has?
I don't think I've experienced it quite as challenging, just because I'm working with immunosuppressed patients. So we are really trying to not have any of the COVIDs on our floors, but we are still taking the same precautions. And I think that whole paragraph really gives a huge example as to what nurses are going through, because there's so many highs and lows. There's things to be proud of and things to be happy about because, we're the front line. We're really making a difference. But in that same breath, we are dealing with our own new struggles and our own new stresses. And yeah, that paragraph really just sums up the emotional roller coaster that it is to be a nurse right now.
Yeah. So I want us to lighten a bit the atmosphere and watch a nice video where nurses share their stories behind the scenes. Let's have a look.
Do I consider myself a nurse? Yes. I investigate, explore ways to improve women's health who've been victims of violence.
I study women's health, specifically HIV prevention in sub-Saharan Africa.
I get to see people get better, and not just people, but groups of people, populations.
I see abject poverty coming into the emergency department at our hospital. I see kings presenting to our hospital for world-class care. I see people saying goodbye to their loved ones. I see amazing staff going to great lengths to save just a few moments of somebody else's life.
Nursing is not a one-track career.
I guess the typical picture would be somebody at the bedside.
Researcher to faculty, from being a peds nurse to an OR nurse.
My job is dynamic. It's hectic in many ways, but yet predictable in others.
It's sort of like a roller coaster ride. It's fun.
What does it mean to be a nurse?
It means to be licensed to touch someone. It means to be trusted.
You have to be somebody that's empathetic,
compassionate,
organized,
kind.
You have to be a team player.
And sometimes tough. It takes a lot of emotional and mental energy.
I'm a nurse.
I'm a nurse.
I'm a nurse.
So coming back from that video, do you think that you get any life lessons from your patients? So I suppose that they learn a lot from you, but do you also learn from them? Maybe from the way that they react in situations, like whatever you may have in your mind.
Definitely, because the human nature, we're just very resilient, and that to see people go through very challenging times and still recover, it's amazing. I think the best lessons I get are always from my geriatric population, because they've got the wisdom. They know what to expect, and oftentimes they're like, "Oh, it's just awful getting old, but so just enjoy being young and look at you, you're so fit." I find that's kind of my recurring lesson, is that my geriatric population are always reminding me to just live your life, enjoy your moments, and they can be gone in an instant, right? Because we see people that are sick every day, and so I just they really make me value being a healthy person.
That's very powerful, because I suppose that, you know, that at that moment that person tells you, oh, look at you, you are so fit, you are so beautiful and whatever. And then maybe like a few minutes before you were thinking, oh my God, I've eaten so much, I've taken a bit of kilos, I don't look that nice today, you know, so it's really...
about all that because, yeah, I'm healthy.
Yes.
There's something to be valued about your health, because when you don't have it, life is a lot harder.
Yeah, and definitely we should not take it for granted, because we may tend to do that, but actually working in these environments reminds you every time that, you know what, no, it's not granted, like anything can happen.
Yeah.
So we want us to discuss a bit any nice moments that you may have with patients. So think about maybe a moment, yeah, or you may have many, I'm sure, but you can pick one or some, you know, that again stay in your mind and you think, oh, like, wow, like I really had a great time with this person. And sometimes it may be just from something small that you may have done from that patient, but then, you know, like it has impacted that person so much, or it made them happy. So yeah, share with us a bit some of those moments, please.
I honestly, every shift I have some semblance of a really nice moment with a patient. But ones that stick out, I had a patient, she was young, she was in her 40s and went in for a knee surgery and ended up with a stroke. And she was with us for a very long time, and I used to work evenings, and I would tuck her in like I got tucked in as a kid. I'd lift up the blankets and I'd sing her my favorite lullaby, and it was always a happy occasion, and I tucked her into her sheets real well. And it always just made her laugh and smile, and she just loved it. And her and I even communicated after she was discharged. She reached out to me because I had made such an impact. And what are another one too? April Fool's Day. I always have a lot of fun on April Fool's Day with my patients.
So what do you do exactly?
I like to play little practical jokes on them and have some fun. And I had this grumpy patient. She was always had a scowl on her face. She was always displeased. And I brought her the morning medications. I said, okay, here they are. Put them in a little cup, put them in front of her, and she poured them out. And she goes, those are M&Ms. And she brightens up and laughs and smiles. And oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Those are M&Ms. We better go get you your real medication. And I think it was the first time any of the staff had seen her smile. So little moments like that.
Yeah.
Bringing
the human part, you know, in that environment that can be challenging for sure for anybody that is there. It doesn't matter if it's something small or bigger issue. When you're in an environment when you're not used to, I can imagine that it's definitely challenging for everybody. So what makes you excited about your job then, generally speaking?
I think just because every day is so different that you never quite know what you'll be walking into. You never know who you'll end up communicating with or talking to. What challenges you'll face, what new learning curves you may have. So for me, it's always exciting going to work because it's always different.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And now, if I would ask you to describe what you feel about nursing with 2 words, what would you say?
I would say rewarding and proud. I get a lot of fulfillment from what I do, and it makes me very proud to be a nurse.
And that's amazing. Feeling like that for yourself, I think it's an amazing feeling. So it has been a great time talking to you. The time has passed so quickly, I don't even realize. It has been amazing. Thank you so much for being here with us. I think that you've passed many important messages I keep in mind that you, as a nurse, you need to be compassionate. You can have an impact in somebody's life, even with the smallest thing that you can do. You need to have good communication skills, knowledge, be positive, and be confident. That's what I keep from your conversation today, and that you definitely can change someone's life. Just being you, positive, and trying to help people. Thank you so much. And I wish you all the best in your future career. Thank you everybody for watching. We have also done another video for nurses, so you can check that out as well and then have a more complete knowledge about them. All the episodes are also on YouTube at Health and Happy with Hera, when you can also watch them with subtitles. Thank you. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Ju mbahet mend banja ime e parë, po hera e parë që buzëqesha, hapat e parë, po atëherë kur shkuam në plazh dhe hyra në det për herë të parë. Klasa ime e parë. Të gjithë herët e para, ju ishit aty për mua. Tani, është radha ime, sepse për mua, jeni ju të parët. Meria dhe EasyPay, transfertat e parave ofrohen realisht me tarifat më të ulta në treg, shpejt, sigur, brenda pak minutash. Sepse familja juaj vjen e para. EasyPay dhe Ria Money Transfer dërgojnë më shumë se para.